That was absolutely incredible.
I have never seen that before on this stage. You deserve this standing ovation.
The atmosphere in the Spain's Got Talent arena was electric, buzzing with anticipation as the audience waited for the next act. The bright stage lights glimmered against the polished floor, casting reflections that danced like tiny stars across the venue. Every seat was filled, and the crowd's chatter created a low hum of excitement, punctuated by the occasional laughter or cheer. You could feel the energy in the air. It was that familiar mix of hope, curiosity, and the thrill of the unknown that always precedes an unforgettable performance. The judges sat poised in their seats, cameras focused, expressions a blend of eagerness and professional curiosity. Simon, Risto and the other judges exchanged subtle glances, already sensing that tonight might deliver something extraordinary. From the backstage area, the next contestant made his way toward the spotlight, every step echoing against the walls as the anticipation grew. He walked with a quiet confidence, yet there was a tension in his shoulders, a subtle indication that what was about to unfold would test limits beyond normal performances. The crowd noticed his presence almost immediately, a ripple of excitement running through the audience, as he stepped onto the stage. Cameras followed every movement, capturing his first glance at the judges, a nod of acknowledgement to the audience, and the way he adjusted his stance, preparing for what would soon become a performance etched in everyone's memory. The music began softly in the background, a subtle beat that seemed to heighten the suspense. The contestant paused in the center of the stage, taking a deep breath, and for a brief moment, the arena fell into silence. The contrast was striking. The usual chatter and movement from the crowd quieted down, as if the audience instinctively understood that something monumental was about to occur. In that silence, every eye in the venue focused on him, every camera zoomed in, and every heartbeat seemed to sync with his own. You could almost feel the collective anticipation, a shared tension that seemed to hold the entire theater captive, waiting to see what daring feat he had planned. The judges leaned slightly forward in their chairs, instinctively sensing the unusual energy emanating from the stage. Simon's usual composed demeanor hinted at curiosity. Risto's eyes narrowed slightly in anticipation, and the other judges exchanged whispers, unable to contain their growing intrigue. The lights shifted subtly, spotlighting the contestant in a way that made him appear almost heroic, a lone figure standing at the threshold of something spectacular. The audience could sense it too, the thrill of witnessing a performance that wasn't just about talent. It was about courage, risk, and pushing the limits of what one could endure in pursuit of amazement. As he made a few calculated movements, setting props in precise positions, the crowd's curiosity turned into a quiet, tense anticipation. Every hand clap, every murmur, every movement of the camera felt magnified. This wasn't just another act. This was something different, something that would test the boundaries of what Spain's Got Talent had ever seen. The contestant's calm yet focused demeanor created a stark contrast with the nervous excitement that rippled through the audience, setting the stage for a performance that would leave everyone on the edge of their seats. In that moment, the entire arena seemed to hold its breath, fully aware that the next few minutes would be unforgettable, that they were about to witness a daring act that would blur the line between awe and disbelief. The air grew heavier with tension as the contestant made his final preparations. Every eye in the audience was fixed on him, the usual chatter fading into a tense silence that seemed to amplify the sound of every movement he made. He bent down, adjusting a small device at his feet, and the subtle clicking noise resonated through the hall, a stark contrast to the thumping anticipation in the crowd's chest. The judges leaned in slightly, instinctively sensing that this was no ordinary performance. Simon's usually stoic expression flickered for a moment with curiosity, while Risto's eyes narrowed, a mixture of concern and intrigue playing across his face. Even the other judges, who had seen countless acts, exchanged subtle glances, realizing that what was about to happen might push the boundaries of risk and spectacle. Then, without warning, a small flicker of flame appeared. The audience collectively gasped, some leaning forward in their seats, others instinctively holding their breath. The flicker quickly grew into a roaring blaze as the contestant ignited himself, the flames climbing his body in a controlled, terrifying dance. For a split second, time seemed to freeze. The light from the fire reflected off the stage, casting long, flickering shadows across the audience and judges alike. The smoke curled upward in elegant swirls, almost as if performing alongside him, and the heat radiated visibly through the shimmering distortion above the flames. The atmosphere was charged with a dangerous beauty, a mix of awe and fear that gripped everyone present. The crowd's reactions ranged from sheer shock to a tense admiration. Some screamed involuntarily, their hands flying to their mouths as their eyes widened in disbelief. Others leaned forward, eyes glued to the stage, unable to look away despite the danger unfolding before them. You could see the mix of emotions on the judges' faces: astonishment, fear, and an undeniable respect for the audacity of the act. Simon's hand instinctively went to his chin. Risto's brows knitted together in concern, and the other judges' expressions were frozen in a mixture of terror and fascination. The tension was so thick it could almost be cut with a knife, a tangible reminder that this wasn't just entertainment, it was a moment where human courage and daring intersect. With danger in the most dramatic way possible. The contestant moved with surprising precision despite being engulfed in flames. Each gesture, each step, was deliberate, carefully choreographed to ensure both maximum visual impact and safety. The fire roared and twisted around him, yet he seemed almost untouchable, like a figure of legend performing a dance of fire before an audience who could only watch in stunned silence. The combination of smoke, sparks and flames created an almost cinematic tableau. The stage transformed into a battlefield of light and shadow, awe and fear. Every second stretched, each heartbeat amplified as the crowd collectively held their breath, fully aware that one wrong move could change everything. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the fire subsided. The contestant executed the final part of his routine, extinguishing the flames with a controlled flourish that left the audience in a mixture of relief and awe. The judges, momentarily speechless, leaned back in their chairs, trying to process what they had just witnessed. Simon's eyes widened, Risto's mouth opened in disbelief, and the audience erupted into nervous applause, cheers mixed with gasps and exclamations of amazement. The sheer audacity of the performance, the perfect balance of danger and skill, had created a moment that would be talked about long after the lights dimmed. In those brief, terrifying and exhilarating minutes, the contestant had transformed the stage into a spectacle of bravery and artistry, leaving everyone present, audience, judges and viewers at home, completely stunned and utterly captivated. The flames had finally died down, leaving behind a faint trail of smoke that curled lazily toward the ceiling. And for a moment, the arena seemed suspended in disbelief. The audience stared in stunned silence, their minds struggling to process what they had just witnessed. Some were frozen in their seats, hands still mid-air, while others slowly began to clap, the sound hesitant at first, as if unsure whether the danger had truly passed. The atmosphere was electric, a strange mix of relief, awe, and adrenaline, leaving every spectator's heart racing. Cameras zoomed in from every angle, capturing the contestant as he stood, unharmed, his breathing steady but deliberate, a faint glimmer of sweat on his forehead betraying the intense concentration required to survive such a daring act. The judges were equally overwhelmed. Simon leaned back in his chair, mouth slightly open, eyes wide, clearly trying to articulate his thoughts but finding no words. Risto's hands gripped the desk in front of him as he stared, incredulous, at the performer who had just risked everything for a moment of sheer spectacle. The other judges exchanged quick, stunned glances, their expressions a mixture of admiration and concern. They had seen talented performers before, but nothing prepared them for the raw courage, precision and audacity required to set oneself on fire and emerge unscathed. It was a level of performance that went beyond skill. It bordered on heroism, a living embodiment of human daring and fearlessness. The contestant raised a hand, acknowledging the audience's applause, and slowly, the nervous energy began to transform into genuine admiration. Some members of the crowd stood up, clapping louder, cheers mixing with gasps of amazement, as if applauding not just the act itself, but the courage behind it. Children's eyes widened in awe, adults whispered to each other in disbelief, and the entire arena seemed to vibrate with a shared sense of witnessing something historic. The performer's expression was calm yet humble, a subtle nod to the meticulous training and mental fortitude required to pull off such a stunt. It was a moment of triumph, not just for the performance, but for the human spirit, the thrill of daring to push boundaries that few would even consider. As the judges began to speak, their voices carried a mix of amazement and incredulity. Simon, still visibly shocked, praised the contestant for his bravery and flawless execution, his words tinged with awe. Risto echoed the sentiment, adding that the act required not only physical skill, but an extraordinary level of mental discipline and courage. The other judges joined in, offering comments that ranged from admiration to incredulous praise, each one struggling to capture the magnitude of what had just unfolded. The audience responded in kind, cheering at each word, the energy in the arena reaching a fever pitch as everyone collectively celebrated the performance that had defied expectations and redefined what could be done on a talent stage. Backstage, the crew and safety personnel exhaled in relief, visibly impressed by the precision and professionalism of the act. The contestant walked off the stage, greeted by congratulatory applause, and despite the adrenaline still coursing through his veins, a small smile crossed his face, reflecting a mix of pride, relief and satisfaction. The performance had been risky, even dangerous, but it had captivated hearts and minds in a way that few acts ever could. In that unforgettable moment, the audience, judges and crew alike realized they had just witnessed more than a talent performance. They had witnessed a spectacle that combined courage, artistry, and sheer audacity, leaving everyone in awe. It was the kind of act that would be replayed, discussed, and remembered for years to come. A reminder that true greatness often requires stepping into the flames, literally, and daring to emerge unscathed.